Now, we are moving to our next session, a dialogue, New Frontiers in Insulin Therapy, Optimal Glycemic Control Strategies. May I request chairpersons Dr. Kaushik Saha, Dr. M.L. Bhansali, and Dr. Jayanto Datto to come up on the stage for this session. May I request speakers Dr. K.K. Gangopadhyay, Consultant Endocrinologist, CMRI Hospital, Kolkata, and Dr. Tirthankar Choudhury, Consultant Endocrinologist, Apollo Multi-Speciality Hospital, Kolkata, to grace the dais.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think after the tropical fever, we now enter into the metabolic areas, that is the endocrinology. I think the two stalwarts here, from my left, Tirthankar Da, and from the right, KK Da. So I think they don't need any introductions in the field of endocrinology. So the today topic is the new frontier in the insulin therapy, the optimal glycemic control strategies, a dialogue. That means the long-acting, short-acting, and the newer areas, I think they have already knows the subjects and they will enlighten us that where we should use this type of the insulins in our clinical practice. Although after all these things, we know that every person is having a phobia regarding the injections. So as you have to enlighten that where you have to should use in these two important areas, so the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson, sir. So we'll start off with, this is the topic, and it will be sort of dialogue. So we'll be discussing few cases, me and Tirthankar together. So this is the financial disclosure for both of us. So this is the agenda. So we'll go with the first one, the synergistic power of Rhizodec. So I would like to ask Dr. Choudhury, what are the lacuna with current insulin therapies? How does this new generation, how do they address these gaps in the lacuna?
Thank you very much, and I thank organizers for inviting me. And the slides have been given to us by Novo Nordisk. Now, the question is, what are the lacuna with current insulin therapy and how do new generation insulin address this gap? It is important to understand that whatever we do in terms of insulin therapy, we try to mimic the physiology of insulin secretion and the action. Now, I think we have changed the slides again. So what happens is that there are two things. One is where you inject the insulin. You are not injecting in the portal vein, you are injecting in the subcutaneous tissue. And second part is the chemistry of the molecule. So what we are doing with the analogs is we are improving the chemistry of the molecular insulin in such a way that we improve the problems we had with the previous generation. These problems were variable absorption. When you inject in the subcutaneous tissue, the older generation had a slow onset. Of course, there was pronounced peaks, so there are predictable and unpredictable peak. They don't fall in line with the glycemic excursion that you have after a meal. And slow onset also gives you the problem that you have a hypoglycemia later on. So less predictability, delayed action, and you don't have the flexibility. So because you have to be very rigid, trying to match the peak postprandially, rigid dosing schedule, and more dose requirement. Now newer molecules is of course trying to get over these, and let's try to explore the advancement and development in new generation insulin. So the ones that we have discussed, in context of that, we have got a patient in real life. You have got Mr. Suresh, who is 54 years old. He is a businessman. You can see he's 75 kg old and 11 years diabetic. Duration is important. Now you have got HbA1c 10.3% and fasting sugar 174, postprandial 286. Patient is, of course, in a host of treatment and not, of course, on incretin-based therapy. Now the complaint is hypoglycemia and quality of life. Now you can understand from this that the patient has an HbA1c of 10.3%. He has got hyperglycemia in your clinic, but the patient complaint is hypoglycemic. As I was saying, that this happens because you can see the older generation of premix, of course the dose is given 8 and 10, that needs correction. And even after correction, probably you will have the problem of delayed onset, flexibility, rigidity, and hypoglycemia more frequent with this. Therefore, this is the problem that we come across when you are trying to use an older generation. However, I should tell you that the education, taking the patient on board when you are prescribing insulin or insulin initiation is very crucial if you want to get a good outcome. So what are the limitations of conventional premix insulin? So I would ask Dr. Kullan Gangopadhyay to enumerate that.
Okay. So I think here I'll give you a small exercise. I'll tell you. I want you to follow what I'm saying. So of course, with the premix, if somebody is on premix and the control is very good and there is no hypoglycemia, please do not change it. Do not rock the boat which is sailing well. Somebody is on premix, very well controlled, no hypoglycemia, let it be. But overall, variability in glycemic control is improved if you start with a co-formulation twice a day, or if you change from premix to co-formulation. There is incomplete 24-hour basal coverage with the premix insulin, which is satisfied by the co-formulation. And this is an important thing, needs resuspension. You know, the premix insulin, whichever you have, we tell the patients, dawar age ekটু পেনটাকে নাড়িয়ে নেবেন. But many times, more often than not, more than 50% don't do that. And that can lead to a lot of variability. I'll just tell you to do something. So raise your right index finger like this. Can you just follow what I'm saying? Please do that. Now, touch your cheek with it. Now look, I have told you to touch your cheek, but all of you touch the forehead because I showed it like this. Okay? That's the power of action. Body language and action speaks more louder than words. So what I tell the patients when they come, those who are on premix insulin, dawar age 20 bar jhakiye neben, like this. And it takes, I've counted it, takes about 8 seconds. Dawar age 20 bar jhakiye neben. The pen I am writing it, I use that, I say dawar age 20 bar jhakiye neben. And it's clear that if you don't do it, if you just do it 5 times, doesn't matter. If you do like this, doesn't matter. It has to be 20 times for it to be suspended clearly. So, ei shob jhamela gulo er moddhe nei. The clear insulins, you don't have this problem. And of course, the shoulder effect is there because the NPH bit in the premix, it has a bit of a shoulder, and therefore, slightly higher risk of the hyperglycemia as opposed to the co-formulation. So, because, why is that? Because in the co-formulation, you have got 2 separate ultra long-acting degludec, you can see my mouse, and the short-acting, and they are completely separate as opposed to the premix where they are actually mixed. So the co-formulation is not called a premix because it is not mixed, it is separate. So it works separately. So the short-acting does its work, long-acting does its work. So switching from older premix insulins to Ryzodeg, you have got real-world data which suggests that the HbA1c can come down from 7.8 to 7.1. The fasting sugars, postprandial sugars, all appreciably reduced. So we have got data to suggest that the patients will benefit from this. Now, sugar ta komiye labh nahi. I want to see a reduction in hypoglycemia and reduction in insulin dose. So you get almost 20% reduction in insulin dose. And there is a 54% reduction of confirmed hypoglycemia and 75% lower risk of nocturnal hypoglycemia. This is important. Khali sugar ta komali hobe na, hypoglycemia ta komate hobe, and dual purpose is served when you change from premix to Ryzodeg. So improved efficiency, lower insulin dose requirement, and improved safety, safety meaning hypoglycemia. Now the second scenario which I will put forward for Dr. Chaudhary is this gentleman, 54 years, type 2 diabetes for 11 years, on metformin full dose, glimepiride half full dose, and dapagliflozin. This was my case. So this is the patient which Dr. Tirthankar Chaudhary had shown. Here, the patient was started on Ryzodec 10 units. Now, I have got an objection to this. See, the slide which was shown initially showed that the patient was on premix insulin 10 units and 8 units. And HbA1c was 10.8. If the HbA1c is 10.8 and the patient is not on a premix insulin, then you start premix insulin twice a day, hypoglycemia, then this makes a point. But if the patient's HbA1c is 10.8 on a premix insulin twice a day, then this doesn't make a sense to me, because I will remove the glimepiride. It is not just not working. But if the patient's HbA1c is 10.8 and not on insulin, insulin naive, then I get this point. So what to do with the sulfonylurea when you're starting a premix insulin? So if you're starting it once a day, I tend to keep the sulfonylurea at the other end. So if you're using it before insulin before dinner, give the sulfonylurea before breakfast, and vice versa. Here, the glimepiride is 1 milligram twice a day. That is not advisable. Either you give Ryzodec before dinner, glimepiride before breakfast, or vice versa. Now remember, Ryzodec has got 70% long-acting insulin and 30% short-acting insulin. So my preference would be that I'll give the glimepiride before breakfast and give the Ryzodec before dinner. And it's not working, then I'll remove the glimepiride and use Ryzodec twice a day. So harnessing Tresiba. So this is the next case which I'll put forward for Dr. Chaudhary. So 72 kilogram gentleman, BMI 23.8, diabetic for 7 years, HbA1c is 9.8, full dose of metformin, glimepiride, pioglitazone, and NPH insulin 8 units. He's facing difficulty injecting insulin at a fixed time every day, and the CGM report shows high variability. So what are the limitations of conventional and first generation basal insulins? So that's the question I'll put forward for Dr.
So
Chaudhary.
the question is, what are the limitations of conventional and first generation basal insulin? Now, what we need to remember is that every insulin and every regimen has an evidence. So the individualization becomes very, very important when we are seeing a patient. Now, needless to say that the modern, more advanced analogs, because of the chemistry of the insulin, helps you using it in a more convenient, more predictable manner and with less hypoglycemia. Now, when you are using, as Kullan was trying to touch on that when you are using the combination of medicine and OHA, it is also very important to understand the science of their action. That will only help us better. And also, no patient on insulin without an SMBG is going to get a good result. Anybody who comes with an HbA1c less than 7%, I try to explore hypoglycemia, which is not always a very significant hypoglycemia, symptomatic hypoglycemia. But if you ask them that, do you get any discomfort before your next meal, you'll be surprised to see how many of them with an HbA1c between 6 to 7 would say, if I give a prolonged gap, I get a symptom. So it is very important that we try to get an insulin which causes less hypoglycemia, more predictable glycemic control. So unmet needs in conventional and first generation basal insulin is not truly once daily. What happens if you use the Glargine U100? Actually, it is 18 to 22 hours variably. And there is also not a peakless insulin. Higher variability. So they have got some peaks and troughs. And if you will be also notice that if you are using somebody on Lantus in the night, the peak, of course, rises a bit in the middle of the night when you want them to be slightly on the lower, because the basal is also not basal, flat in our body. Fixed time of dosing, not truly peakless, are the problems that we come across. So how does ultra-long-acting basal insulin for you? That's the question Dr. Kullan will ask me.
I'll put this question to you.
Yeah, so what are the shortcomings? Now this is Tresiba has a flat action profile. So when this came, we realized that actually, as I said, we try to mimic the physiology of secretion and action. Now, when it came, the insulin was discovered in 1921, we thought that we have won the war against diabetes. But actually, the long march had just begun, and we are still struggling. Now you can see here that what is Tresiba, a flat projection. So it gives you a basal, and then we have to work on the prandial. So this is the reason why Tresiba is much better. Now, if you look at a variability, Tresiba is lower within the variability. So you see the area under the curve. If you look here for the degludec, and if you look here, then you will understand that for glargine U100, that how better it is in terms of maintaining your glycemic profile. So total glucose lowering effect was more evenly distributed in degludec in comparison to this. Now, Tresiba has a lower day-to-day variability versus glargine. So if you remember the time in range study in Switch Pro, what they looked at is TIR, and they also found that the time below range was also better for Tresiba. Now again you see here that how this is doing better in comparison to these peaks. So if you look at the degludec, I hope you are noticing the color change. So by going into Tresiba, a modern insulin, you are getting a more flat thing. Just I was talking about Switch Pro. This study was actually funded by Novo Nordisk. Some 791 patients were there, and they looked for 16 weeks versus 16 weeks. It was a crossover study. And they wanted to look at the area, and you can see here the treatment difference reached statistical significance in favor of Tresiba. So this was, and they also found actually less area below the curve. So obviously again, Tresiba had better. If you look at the lower rates of hypoglycemia, then that was, I think, the Switch study which showed about hypoglycemia. They looked at the symptomatic hypoglycemia as a primary endpoint. But when you looked at the detailed data of the result, they also found that hypoglycemia was less with degludec. So overall hypoglycemia, severe hypoglycemia, nocturnal hypoglycemia, the overall, which were most of them were secondary endpoint, they found that Tresiba was better. And this was the Switch study. They looked for the hypoglycemia. Again, they had almost 130 centers, multi-center study. And you can see here how Tresiba was much more convincing in terms of less hypoglycemia. Now you had the flexibility. So in Tresiba, you can use it with much more flexibility than glargine U100. So obviously you can switch times in the day, because in our busy schedule you wonder that it is sometimes very difficult to take in the same time. So this gives you the advantage. This also gives you the advantage of less hypoglycemia and more time in range. Therefore, no doubt that this, we are not making always drastic discovery or invention, but we are going incremental benefit with the newer insulin. So now we have got another patient, Ramesh, who is 55 years old, and he is a teacher, and he has got blood pressure looks okay, BMI 23, and again diabetic for 7 years. Now his treatment now is metformin, glimepiride, EMPA, Tresiba, and then of course he got benefit. Then of course when you are using glimepiride, you have to think about with the basal that you might get the fasting control very quickly, but you may still be struggling. So combination of treatment is of course a different science altogether. Now we'll be now talking of enhancing diabetes therapy with FIASP, and I think that's this is another patient to show you, the Ramesh, 58 years old. And now if you look at metformin, glimepiride, EMPA, the patient we are talking about has elevated PPG with FBG, consistent within target. So we are trying to now tackle the prandial glucose excursion. So considering his clinical journey, what are the benefits of initiating this individual on the newer bolus insulin FIASP? Dr. Kullan.
Okay. So I think we've got 3 minutes left, so I'll try and hurry up. So this is, so basically on basal insulin plus a glimepiride, and you have got elevated fasting sugar. So you need to fix the postprandial here. So the question comes about the use of fast-acting aspart insulin. You can see that the advantages are clear, that it is ultra-fast, greater early glucose lowering, and you can also give it post-meal. I think this 5-ASP insulin is classically best suited for hospitalized patients, where you need these sort of insulins, which can be given just before, during, or just after meals. And our Asian meals also have got high carbohydrate contents, so that also makes sense to use it for rapidly getting the postprandial sugars down. Again, I have an objection to this slide again. So here you see this patient was given Tresiba and was given 5-ASP 4 units with breakfast. Well, where is the mistake? I think the glimepiride should be stopped. There is no scope. If you are giving a bolus insulin, whatever you give aspart or fast-acting aspart, you should remove the sulfonylurea. The whole purpose is defeated. It is not working. The postprandial is not getting down with the sulfonylurea. So if you're on a sulfonylurea and basal insulin not control, you want to up-titrate it, you want to change to an intensive regime, you add the fast-acting insulin but stop the sulfonylurea. Otherwise, it will be very difficult to titrate the doses. So for the summary slide, Dr. Chaudhary.
Thank you very much. I think before I finish, I'd like to say that when you are using insulin in a patient, simplification of regimen, simplification of titration is very important. The more complicated you mean, more is the variability. Now with the modern insulins, Samario, Ryzodec, Tresiba and 5-ASP were designed for better efficacy, improved safety and better convenience. So greater A1C reduction, lower risk of overall hypoglycemia, lesser glycemic variability, wider window of dosing and convenience with pen device. I think that is, of course, I do agree that the more recent insulin advancement has made our treatment easier. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think as a wonderful discussions regarding the ultra long acting as the short acting. I think from my chair, I think I have 2 or 3 questions. First is to the Tirthoda, that you are showing the differences between the first generation insulin, long acting, and the second generations. That means the Degludec versus U100. So what is about the differences between the U300 glargine and the Degludec? Where we should use these 2 in our clinical practice? Because you are showing on the Switch Pro trial, that is because it is difference between the first generation and second generation. Obviously, we have got the better actions, better all these things for the second generations. Now, if you compare between these 2 second generation ultra long acting, Degludec and the U300, what should be your opinion?
I think very good question. And you have put me on spot because the evidences are very clear-cut when you are trying to talk of U100 versus Tresiba. But if you look at U300 versus Tresiba, then I think there is evidence on both sides. There are studies done on both sides, and it will be very difficult, and that should be a debate of another day. But I think it will be very difficult to establish one over the other in your practice. Thank you.
So my question is to Kuldanda again. Regarding the short acting, you are talking about the aspart. What about the glulicillin?
About the?
Glulicillin, that means Apidra.
Apidra,
Yeah.
Okay, so glulicin seems to be faster than all the others. There is no head-to-head trial with the 5-ASP versus glulicin, which I was keen to see. What is the difference between glulicin and aspart?
Where we should use these insulin, where we should use these insulin. Because we have got the options of the both, right?
Okay, so I think, you see, there is very little difference as far as outcomes are concerned. I think it is in the hospitalized patients that the most difference comes out. So here, you don't know when the food trolley is going to come, when the patient is going to eat, and many times nurses might not be able to give it before the meals. So here I think 5-ASP scores over the others, because you can give it up to 20 minutes, 15 minutes after your meal. So that is the one location where I would use it more, as compared to the others.
Okay, last questions from my end.
Yes.
So many of us writing the Ryzodec twice daily. So what is your impressions?
Twice daily. Which, so I think twice daily is fine. So that's how it is first.
Because you know that the long-acting is having there for the single dose, that means it's more than 40 hours and all these things. So probably we are using the short-acting for twice daily. That's the idea, right?
Correct. So if we, for long acting, so first of all, there is no stacking effect with the long acting insulin. The longer the duration of action on the insulin, less is the stacking effect. The stacking effect occurs if you give rapid acting insulins too close to each other. So before 4 to 6 hours, if you introduce another short acting insulin, that's when you get the stacking effect. So therefore, twice a day is absolutely fine. And all the trials have clearly shown that all the hypoglycemia risk is reduced. Thrice a day, that might be an issue. There are no trials with thrice a day Ryzodeg, although some might say that you are giving the bolus insulin at lunchtime to satisfy the postprandial lunge there. How would you tackle it? So you give Ryzodeg twice a day, and at the lunchtime you get an extra bolus insulin. That's how I would do it.
Yes. Any questions from the floor?
So at least 6 hours gap. So 4 to 6 hours. You may use it breakfast, dinner, you may use it breakfast, lunch, you may use it lunch, dinner. But not less than 4 hours.
I think 2 major meals will be the right choice.
Sorry?
2 major meal will be the right
Correct.
choice. Any questions from the floor? I think it's no. And thank you both the Tirthankar and the Kullanda giving us the exact area regarding the insulin therapy, newer areas. We are using all these things all over the thing, but I think everyone will be enlightened. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I request Dr. J.M. Hinger to felicitate Dr. K.K. Gangopadhyay, and I request Dr. Proshun Haldar to felicitate Dr. Tirthankar Chaudhuri. I request the chairperson to stay on the stage as they are the chairpersons for 3 consecutive sessions. Thank you, sir.